Have you ever felt a deep, unsettling paradox in your soul? A feeling that the more light you share, the more kindness you offer, the more shadows seem to gather around you? That the more you try to please others, to be the source of peace and harmony in their lives, the more you find yourself ignored, your boundaries crossed, your very essence taken for granted. This isn't just a fleeting thought, it's a profound, energetic truth that many spiritually sensitive souls experience. A silent ache in your heart that whispers, "Why is my goodness seen as weakness?" If this question has ever echoed in the quiet chambers of your spirit, know that you are not alone and you are not mistaken. What you are sensing is a fundamental law of human energy and power, a truth so raw and uncomfortable that most of society chooses to ignore it. Today, we will face this truth head-on, guided by one of history's most misunderstood realists. If you are ready to stop being a stepping stone and start being the mountain, if you are ready to reclaim your divine authority, then stay with me. This journey may challenge you, but it will also set you free. And if this message already resonates deep within you, let the universe know by liking this video, subscribing for more truths, and sharing your own story in the comments below with a simple, "I am ready." Let us begin with a quote that has been feared and misinterpreted for centuries, a key that unlocks this entire mystery. It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. These are the words of Niccolò Machiavelli, and while they may sound harsh to a gentle soul, they contain a profound spiritual wisdom. This isn't an invitation to become a tyrant or to close your heart. It is a divine call to understand the nature of energy itself. You see, the universe, and the people within it, respond to frequency. Love, in its purest form, is the highest frequency. But when love is offered without the frequency of self-respect, without the solid foundation of unwavering personal boundaries, it is perceived not as love, but as an open invitation for energetic consumption. It becomes a resource to be used, not a gift to be cherished. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever given a piece of your soul, offered your time, your energy, your empathy, only to feel drained and unseen? That feeling is your higher self sounding an alarm. It is the sting of a soul that knows its worth, even when the world seems to have forgotten it. The discomfort you feel is a sacred signal that your energetic field is being breached. You feel it in the tension in your throat when you want to say no, but a yes comes out. You feel it in the hollow ache in your chest when you realize your voice is not truly being heard, only tolerated. You feel it in the quiet frustration that washes over you when you see manipulative, cold, and even cruel people being afforded a level of respect that you, who only ever wanted peace, are consistently denied. What if I told you that this is not a random occurrence, that it is not a flaw in your character? What if I told you that there is a precise, albeit uncomfortable, spiritual logic behind it all? A dark, but ultimately illuminating, truth. Machiavelli, writing over 500 years ago, was not a monster. He was an observer of the human spirit in its rawest form. He understood that while we may aspire to live in a world governed by unconditional love and kindness, the reality of our current dimension is that human consciousness responds more predictably to fear than to a kindness that lacks strength. And when we say fear, we are not speaking of terror. We are speaking of a profound and healthy respect for consequences. We are talking about the kind of fear that stops someone from touching a hot stove. It is the fear of crossing a clearly defined boundary. This is a divine truth about the human psyche. It respects barriers, not promises. It admires strength, not submission. We are not talking about becoming a manipulator or a narcissist. We are speaking about something far deeper, an awakening to the reality that simply being good is not enough to protect your sacred energy. To be kind without knowing how to powerfully enforce your own boundaries is like bleeding in the middle of the ocean. Your goodness, your light, your life force, it calls out, and sooner or later, the sharks will sense it. Perhaps you are at that point right now, tired of being the last one considered, tired of giving and giving until your own well is dry. feeling like you are always in the background of your own life, a supporting character in a story that should be yours. Maybe you are wondering, how can I be respected without becoming someone I despise? How can I show this strength without losing the very essence of my compassionate self? This is the journey we are on today. Here, we will dismantle the illusion that kindness alone is sufficient armor in this world. We will explore the deep psychology of fear, respect, and authority. With the wisdom of Machiavelli as our unlikely spiritual guide, we will discover how to transform your presence from something that can be overlooked into a force that others do not dare to ignore. Because you must understand this truth. In the real world, those who do not set firm, unwavering boundaries are inevitably pushed into the abyss. If you are ready to climb out, to look in the mirror, and finally understand why you are treated this way, then keep watching. What you are about to learn may change the way you position your soul in the universe forever. Let's delve into the psychology of fear and respect. People do not respect kindness in and of itself. This is a hard pill to swallow, but it is a fundamental truth of human interaction. They respect what kindness represents when it is backed by an unshakable strength. The mistake, the great spiritual error, lies in believing that being a good person is enough. It's the belief that if you just treat everyone well, if you are always kind, if you avoid conflict at all costs, and if you continuously sacrifice your own needs for others, that the world will automatically recognize your value and treat you with the same reverence. But the human brain, the egoic mind, does not operate on this principle. Respect does not arise from mere intention. It arises from the perception of authority. And authority, my dear, is built with posture, with firmness, with energetic sovereignty, and yes, with a certain degree of fear. Psychology has long demonstrated that human beings react to fear with heightened attention. When an individual imposes clear boundaries, when they speak with unwavering conviction, when they do not hesitate to withdraw their energy from abusive or draining situations, the message they convey is simple, primal, and powerful. It says, "Not with me." It creates an invisible, electrified fence around their energetic territory. The other person's subconscious mind understands this as a barrier, a field where one does not tread without caution and respect. This is not aggression, it is a declaration of self-sovereignty. Now, think of the opposite. Think of the people pleaser. The soul who says yes when their entire being is screaming no. The one who over-explains, who justifies their existence, who smiles to avoid a confrontation. The one who remains silent to keep the peace, even when that peace is a toxic illusion built on their own self-suppression. In the eyes of an observer, this person does not convey security or strength. They convey permission, and where there is an abundance of permission without boundaries, abuse is born. Fear and respect are connected by an invisible but incredibly powerful thread. And it is not about threatening or shouting or acting aggressively. That is simply disguised weakness, a tantrum of the unempowered ego. True psychological strength, true spiritual authority, lies in self-control. It resides in a firm, quiet silence. It is present in a gaze that does not need to justify its existence. It is found in the simple, calm act of saying no, without a tremor in your voice, without a wave of guilt. Machiavelli was not suggesting that a ruler or an individual be cruel for the sake of pleasure. He was warning of a fundamental human fact. People are quick to forget favors, but they never forget the person who made them think twice before crossing a sacred line. This law applies not just to political leaders, but to you. In your work, in your friendships, in your romantic relationships. Those who fail to understand this dynamic spend their entire lives trying to be liked, but they will never be taken seriously. And perhaps, right now, you are wondering, does this mean being good is wrong? Absolutely not. But there is a dilemma here, a paradox of goodness, and that is what we must explore next. Perhaps no one ever taught you this. Maybe you grew up hearing the story that being a good person was enough, that your inherent worth would shine through no matter what. You were told to treat others with empathy, to help whenever possible, to put the needs of others before your own. You were conditioned to believe that the world would, in turn, return the same energy to you. But the reality you've experienced is different, isn't it? In the real world, you've discovered that kindness without discernment becomes bait. And predators, yes, they exist, not as monsters in the dark, but as people who operate from a lower frequency of self-interest, can sniff out this unguarded kindness like a wolf smells fear. This creates a brutal, silent, and cruel dilemma within the good-hearted person. The more you try to be good, to be accommodating, the more vulnerable you become to being used and disrespected. And this corrodes your spirit, because you start to wonder, is the problem me? Am I just too nice? But then, a deeper fear emerges. If I stop being this way, if I become hard and set boundaries, will I be betraying who I am? Will I become what I despise? It is at this precise point of conflict that so many beautiful souls get stuck. They believe that hardening their energy is the same as corrupting their spirit. But here is the truth that no one told you. There is no such thing as true kindness without strength. A kindness that does not know how to protect itself, that does not set boundaries, that does not recognize when it is being exploited, is not virtue, it is naivety. It is a psychological trap, often created in childhood, designed to keep good people locked in roles as emotional servants to others. This trap has a name: validation, dependency. You get used to being the nice one, the giver, the listener, the understanding one. You become the one who forgives, even when the other person shows no remorse. You confuse being peaceful with being passive. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, you are swallowed by a sea of unbalanced relationships where only you give in, only you donate your energy, only you truly care. Psychology calls this profound pattern self-abandonment. You emotionally abandon your own needs, your own truths, your own sacred no, in order to sustain an image of someone good, pleasant, and loved. But the cost of this abandonment is astronomical. You lose the respect of others, yes, but far worse, you lose respect for yourself. You must understand this. Being good is not being weak. But being good without the divine wisdom to protect your energy is the fastest, surest path to pain. And Machiavelli understood this. He didn't want you to become cruel. He wanted you to understand human nature so that you could navigate it with power and grace. He knew that human nature respects those who know how to defend themselves. The question that remains is how to do this without crossing the line into bitterness. How to inspire respect and even a healthy fear of your boundaries without falling into hatred of others or becoming what you despise the most. This is exactly what we will explore in the next part of our journey. We will uncover the true identity of Machiavelli and why he may be the unlikely mentor you need to learn how to protect yourself without losing your soul. Let's be clear, there is a vast and crucial difference between being feared and being hated. If you do not understand how to walk this fine line, you risk falling into one of two extremes that will destroy any power relationship. The extreme of passivity that invites abuse, or the extreme of tyranny that generates revolt. True authority, true respect, lies in the balance between them. And believe me, this balance is an art that few ever truly master. To be feared does not mean to be aggressive. It does not mean being violent, shouting, humiliating, or controlling others through constant intimidation. That is not respect, it is terror. And terror always has an expiration date. Sooner or later, it turns against the one who imposed it. Machiavelli knew this intimately. He wrote that a ruler must avoid being hated at all costs, because hatred is a silent, corrosive poison. People can endure a healthy fear of consequences, but they cannot and will not endure humiliation for long. So the secret lies right here. You need to be respected to the point that people do not dare to cross the boundaries you set. But you also need to be fair, just, and consistent enough that they do not wish to bring you down behind your back. How does this apply to your own life? It means acting with crystalline clarity, with unshakable posture, with absolute coherence between your words and your actions. You need to make people understand, without ever needing to explain, that there is a price for disrespect, that your words carry weight, that your absence is felt, that your presence is not something to be taken for granted. This is not something that is built overnight. It starts with small, deliberate gestures. It begins with saying no, firmly, but calmly. It is about stepping away from toxic conversations without feeling the need to justify yourself. It's about not repeating explanations to those who have already heard you, but insist on testing your limits. It is about claiming your emotional space and making it clear, through your actions, that you will not be shaped by the will of others. Psychology proves this. People who exercise authority silently, without resorting to direct, loud confrontation, generate far more respect in the long run. This is the essence of so-called latent power, the kind of power that is present and felt, even when it is not being actively exercised. It is the type of power that makes others think twice before acting, not because you intimidate them, but because they know you do not tolerate disrespect. And that is the key to being feared without being hated. It is about showing that you are in control, not of others, but of yourself. Those who master their own emotions, their own reactions, and their own limits with serenity and firmness command more respect than any shout or threat ever could. But what if that is not enough? What if, even when trying to assert yourself, you still feel that you are being tested, used, or ignored? This is where we enter the most sensitive territory of all, the psychological realm. The internal space where patterns of submission, fear of confrontation, and the difficulty in establishing real, tangible boundaries are born. In the next part, we will dive even deeper. We will explore how your own mind and your emotional history may be preventing you from being respected. And more importantly, we will uncover how to break this internal cycle and start building a new identity, one that is stronger, clearer, and truly unshakable. If what you're hearing resonates with you, if any part of this video has struck you like a true awakening, then you know you need to keep going on this path. The next video is just as important as this one. Do not skip it. Do not put it off. Because understanding the psychology of respect is just the beginning. The real journey is only just starting. Now that you understand the profound importance of being respected, of being firm, and of inspiring the right amount of healthy fear for your boundaries, it is time to look within. It is not enough to simply comprehend these concepts intellectually. If deep down, a part of you still fears bothering others, disappointing them, or being rejected for asserting yourself, then the root of the problem lies within you. And that is where true, lasting transformation must begin. Many people carry from childhood the conditioning to please in order to survive. They were taught, even if subtly, that they would only be loved if they were nice, agreeable, and accommodating. They learned that saying no was synonymous with selfishness, that contradicting was impolite, and that disagreeing was a reason for emotional punishment. And what is the result of this deep-seated programming? Adults who bend over backward to please. Adults who silence themselves to keep a false peace. Adults who accept far less than they deserve because they believe that setting boundaries is a way to lose love. This is a form of psychological poison, an unconscious script that turns you into an emotional slave. And the worst part is, the more you repeat this pattern, the more deeply entrenched it becomes. With every yes you say, when you truly want to say no, you send a message to the world and to your own soul that your will doesn't matter. Each time you avoid a necessary conflict, you allow injustice to grow. With every person you forgive without them feeling any remorse, you validate their abusive behavior. What needs to be crystal clear is that respect starts within you. There can be no external authority without internal firmness. You will never inspire respect if you do not fundamentally respect yourself. You will never set boundaries if you do not believe, in your core, that you deserve to be protected. And no one will ever take you seriously if you constantly doubt your own worth. The construction of this new sovereign identity begins with small, conscious decisions. It starts by observing where you silence yourself out of fear. In what situations do you diminish yourself to fit in? With whom do you feel obligated to be someone you are not? One by one, these situations need to be dismantled, not with anger, but with strategy, with presence, with truth. You will notice that as you begin to assert yourself, some people will be bothered. They will call you rude, cold, or arrogant. But this is not about you. It's about them no longer knowing how to control you anymore. Every change you make in your posture, in your energetic stance, destabilizes those who have fed off your passivity for years. And yes, you will lose people along the way. But believe me, it is profoundly liberating to lose those who only knew how to exploit you when you align with your internal truth. The external world responds. People who once ignored you start to listen. Relationships that once drained you either dissolve or transform into something healthy. You stop begging for love and start attracting genuine respect, because now you are no longer overly accessible. And what is not easy to have always generates more value. But even with all this understanding, there is still a missing piece, something that ties together everything we've discussed so far. You have understood the psychology, the philosophy, the behavior, but you still need to answer the final, crucial question. How do you balance this new strength without becoming what you detest the most? How do you maintain lucidity, respect, and integrity, even while commanding with firmness? That is what we will explore now, the path to true respect. There comes a time in every soul's journey when a decision must be made. Either you continue trying to please the world, hoping that one day people will finally see your worth, or you stop begging for emotional crumbs and start behaving like someone who inherently deserves respect. Because the truth, simple but brutal, is this: no one will give you what you do not demand for yourself. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to turn into a tyrant. But you absolutely need to learn how to stand up for yourself. You need to raise boundaries like invisible, unshakable walls. You need to be able to look into the eyes of those who try to manipulate you and maintain a firm silence that says, "Not with me, not anymore." That is true strength. The kind that doesn't need to shout, the kind that doesn't show off, but the kind that is felt in the air, in your posture, in your gaze. And this strength begins the moment you stop trying to be loved and start demanding to be respected. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that people's love is fickle, conditional, and full of hidden interests. But respect, when it is well built, lasts. It sustains itself. It protects. And that is what you need to seek, not the acceptance of others, but your own inner sovereignty. From the moment you understand that being good is not enough, that your kindness needs a sword and a shield, everything changes. You don't become a bitter person. You become a whole person. Someone who gives because they want to, not because they are afraid of losing. Someone who loves deeply but does not accept being used. Someone who forgives but does not forget. Someone who knows how to withdraw at the exact right moment, and who, for that very reason, is never underestimated again. And now I want to know from you, in what area of your life, work, family, relationships, do you feel you need to start asserting yourself? Write your answer in the comments. Your story can create a space for others to reflect as well, because change begins when we acknowledge where we are being weak. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt a real punch of truth, then you need to keep going. The next video is just as important as this one. Don't skip it. Don't put it off. Because understanding the psychology of respect is just the beginning. The journey is only starting.